I hear thunder. Pitter patter. Time to wake up. Shake your head. Nod your head. It's time to go. See what they did to you? Pull yourself together. Get out of prison. Kill the jailer. Fight for your freedom. The jailer is the key. Kill him, and you'll be free.
Furi is a fast-paced, character action game released in 2016, one that takes the form of a boss rush. You play as the unnamed protagonist, locked away in jail for reasons unbeknownst to you, freed by a mysterious benefactor, fighting your way out of your prison, earning your freedom with each kill. What makes this game interesting is the unique fusion of character action and shoot-'em-up gameplay, coupled with excellent, lightning-quick fights, all culminating what is a brilliantly polished experience. Those of you who played their fair share of spectacle fighters should feel at home here. The core gameplay is based around quick parrying, dodging, and attacking when an opening is available. To achieve this, the game gives you a fairly simple toolbox of moves and abilities. Unlike your typical spectacle fighter, you don't have any long combos or new moves to learn. You have a single attack button which you can use for simple, quick attacks, or hold down for a charged attack. A dodge button which instantly dodges and passes through attacks and projectiles. Again, this can be held for a charged dodge that travels further. You shoot with the right thumbstick in a similar fashion to twin-stick shooters, and can hold down the right trigger again for a charged shot. Finally, you can parry, which blocks your opponent's attacks, can deflect projectiles, and when you successfully parry, you gain a small amount of health. It's all fairly simple and utilitarian. It's not designed to be flashy or complex. It serves its purpose purely in function and gameplay. Further, the game rewards you for sharp timing and punishes you accordingly for sloppy gameplay and greed. If you parry at exactly the right moment, you stagger your opponent, which lets you unleash a strong critical attack. The same goes for a charged attack. If you choose your moment right and charge carefully, you can hit them, stagger them, then crit. However, if you get sloppy, trying to get in some extra cheeky hits, the game will slap you down and push you back. You have to pick your moments. Read the enemy, learn their patterns. If you get yourself into a rhythm with your opponent, you'll find everything flowing together like clockwork, as if everything you're doing is a beautifully choreographed dance, leading to some of the most satisfying combat in any game I've played. So what can you expect from the bosses themselves? Well, bosses typically have two core types of attacks. The first are the up-close and personal melee attacks. They're fast and you have to be on your guard. Thankfully, the game telegraphs them with a quick visual flash and a sound cue to let you know to parry. The other are projectiles, typically balls of energy, but there's also waves and such. This is where the game leans further into shoot-'em-up territory, or even bullet hell. You can parry projectiles, but that's pretty slow, and you won't be able to handle multiple at a time. You can dodge through projectiles, but if you're faced with a huge wall of them, well, good luck with that. No, the best way to handle most projectiles is simply to shoot them. One shot deals with most and allows you to carve your way through the barrages of rounds being thrown your way. As for how the bosses feel and play, I'll get onto that in just a minute. I'd first like to get into the visuals of this game. Furi has a somewhat unique art style. It's hard to fully put it into words, but I can best describe it as very French, with some clear Japanese influences. I couldn't tell you exactly why I get that French feeling from this game, but it hit me pretty much from the moment I saw the rabbit guy. It's worth noting I lived in France and did what I could to take part in the culture, so playing this game sort of dug up forgotten feelings and impressions I've made before. It also helps that the devs are indeed French, so I wasn't off base on this one. And the character designer is also Japanese, so the influences are worn pretty clearly on their sleeve. Hi, yeah, it's me from the future. I'm doing editing right now and I realized something. The character designer is one Takashi Okazaki, who you may be familiar with his work. He is the guy behind Afro Samurai, or specifically the artist behind Afro Samurai. So a lot of the character designs in this game, it becomes quite clear where the influences are there. He also animated the somewhat recent Batman Ninja movie as well. So I should have mentioned that. I should have done my research, but I'm an idiot. Anyway, back to the video. As far as textures and colours are concerned, Furi uses a lot of flat, simple textures. Combined with this are bright, highly contrasted colours offset with the dark, harsh shadows. This causes many elements of the game to pop, such as the hair and cape on the protagonist, and further enhances the character designs, making them appear more striking when in motion. This also aids in gameplay, as things can sometimes get quite hectic, but the clear and distinguished character designs meant that I never lost where I or the boss were in the heat of action. The art style lends itself very well to clarity. Projectiles and characters never blend into the background, and there is a strong visual language communicating what is going on screen. Projectiles are always bright and round. Attacks are always telegraphed with a white flash at the enemy's weapon. When you hit the enemy, yellow sparks fly from them. The game has a particular art style, but it never gets in the way of gameplay. I'd describe this game as a function over form sort of affair. It just so happens that the form is beautiful and the function is incredibly slick. I'll make a brief mention of the music in this game. I'm no expert. I won't pretend to know much about music in general. I just know good music when I hear it, and this game's soundtrack is stellar. It's comprised mostly of synthwave tracks made by an ensemble of composers. It's all excellent and really helps bolster the experience. This game is primarily a power fantasy, and I feel like the music really feeds into that feeling.
You can't win, stranger. You have nothing to protect, nothing to fight for.
Someone who doesn't disappoint. Let's play some more.
If I had one complaint, it's that the theming for the music feels a little loose. A lot of the elements of this game are themed around the boss you are fighting, and whilst each boss has their own music, a lot of it feels like it could easily be interchanged with another boss's music, and not much would be lost. I'm sure there are motifs and themes within the music that tie into the boss as well, but I don't have the musical inclination to recognise or detect them. If you like what you hear though, the soundtrack for this game can be purchased as an extra for your listening pleasure. Alright, time to get into the bosses of this game, the Jailers. These are 9 powerful individuals who devoted their lives to keeping you from escaping this prison that was built exclusively for you. And you know what? Almost every single one of them is my favourite kind of boss. How do I properly describe this? There is a particular kind of boss found in video games that in my opinion trumps them all. Every variety of boss has its merits and drawbacks. You've got your giant, slow, lumbering brutes with heavy, highly telegraphed attacks. You've got your swarm bosses that are just wave after wave of smaller enemies, and let's not forget our old pal, the boss that is invulnerable and throws various attacks your way before stopping to reveal its weak point. Again, these all have their values, but for me, none of them hold a candle to the fighter. What is the fighter? Well, it's the funnest variety of boss any game can include. Let me give you examples first. What is the best fight in Dark Souls? For me, it's Artorias. How about Dark Souls 3? I'd personally go with the Abyss Watchers. Bloodborne starts with one pretty much out of the gate with Father Gascoigne. Devil May Cry has Nello Angelo, Devil May Cry 4 has Credo, Metal Gear Rising has Jetstream Sam. So, what do all of these bosses have in common? They're just dudes. They're not gods or giants or dragons. They're not lightning fast, they don't cause huge earthquakes or have massive BFGs. They're like you. They're fast, but no faster than you are. They're strong, but reasonable. They follow pretty much all the same rules you do. With these kinds of bosses, you don't feel like you're punching down on some easy target, nor do you feel like you're felling some immense beast. You're dancing toe-to-toe with an equal, testing your skills against a foe of similar power. You're clashing sword against sword. That more or less describes almost every boss in this game, and yet they all still feel unique and varied. They have different personalities, different strategies, different powers, but at the end of the day, if they swing at you, you can block it. I'm not going to do a blow-by-blow of every boss, as I think it's important that you come at them fresh and unaware. But I will delve a little more into the general archetypes you'll find. They fit more or less into 3 categories: melee, ranged, and hybrid. Simple enough. Melee-focused enemies will primarily hit you up close. These bosses test your parrying skills more than anything. They'll occasionally back off and fire a few rounds at you, but you'll primarily be up close and personal with them. Ranged bosses are the opposite, preferring to keep distance and typically throwing you into bullet hell-esque situations, where you need to shoot down projectiles and dodge to try and close the distance. Hybrids will typically mix and match these, swapping between attack patterns to test you, but every boss has one thing in common. Once you take down their health bar, you are forced into a close combat fight. Here they are pretty much all entirely melee focused. This is where the sword fighting comes into play more. Quick parries and dodges, punishing mistakes, looking for gaps in their patterns. It's fast, it's tense, but it's not chaotic. It's not a frenzy of blades slashing at unfathomable speeds. It's calculated but fast blows, spaced out. You stand and wait for your opponent to strike, then parry and counter. Each boss has multiple health bars, and each bar you take down increases the boss's complexity. They add more and more layers to their attacks, increasing their difficulty. It always feels like a gradual rise. You're never thrown in at the deep end. You're introduced to the boss, shown their mechanics, then once you feel comfortable, they throw it all at you. In most games, bosses act kind of like an exam, testing what you've learned in the level before them, ensuring that you've improved enough to carry on with the game. In this game, however, they are the lesson and the final test wrapped up into one. You too have multiple health bars, and every time you finish a phase, you get a bar back, so even if you get knocked down a few times, you can regain what you've lost. Each boss also has their own themed arena. The area where you fight them often reflects some elements of the boss's personality. They tie into the story really well. The jailers live there. They stay there 24/7, waiting for you to escape. You are a threat large enough that these people dedicated the rest of their existence to keeping you incarcerated, so it only makes sense that they stay somewhere comfy. I'll give you my favorite example, the 5th boss. When you first walk through the door into his area, you are met by desolate wasteland, a harsh, unlivable environment, something that no doubt brings death to anyone who thinks they could face it. As you walk through it, you come upon a metal dome, armor against a dangerous force, protecting that which is within. Once you pass through the threshold into the dome, you are faced with a warm, inviting, homely area. Sanctuary, a home brightened with love. It's poetic and reflects the jailer there really well. You'd be forgiven for thinking the story in this game is largely superfluous. A game with gameplay this satisfying certainly doesn't need it. The devs could have easily gotten away with writing little to no story at all, but here they've managed to neatly weave the narrative into the game. I won't get into story specifics, I genuinely believe this is a story that you're best off experiencing for yourself, but I will give you some elements of it, as well as how it is presented to the player. Firstly, it's important to mention the protagonist. He is entirely mute from start to finish. He almost never betrays any emotion. He simply wants to escape, and is doing what he needs in order to get there. He is not an amnesiac as far as I can tell, but the player isn't given information about his background. You don't know why he is locked up, you don't know what his motivations are, you don't know where he is from. Alongside our protagonist, however, is someone known as the Voice. A strange gentleman in a rabbit getup, he acts in part as our storyteller, but he also acts as the hype man. He tells you why the protagonist should be upset. He tells you what you can expect. He brings forward stories of the jailers or of the jail itself. He also acts as an emotional stand-in. Where the protagonist has the emotional range of a rock, the Voice is full of emotion. Sadness, pity, rage. During the fights, however, his role is filled in by the jailers. The jailers give you hints about your fate. They slowly help you unravel the mystery of the protagonist's origins. One is the person who defeated you in battle and captured you. Another is the person who came up with the idea of the jail. The first is your torturer, a sadist who takes pleasure in hurting you. Each has their own unique motivation, but it is always centered around you. There is, however, a questionable approach to storytelling in this game. Between each boss, your character slowly walks from one arena to the next. Whilst you're walking, your bunny friend gives you exposition, tells you stories, talks about the jailer. Problem is, you walk at an incredibly slow, fixed speed, and you can't skip it. If you like, you can press A on your controller and the protagonist will automatically walk to the next area, but you'll still have to sit there and wait until you arrive at the following arena. This presents an interesting pacing problem. You go from intense, fast-paced fighting to slow, calm exposition. Now, on the one hand, this serves the purpose of giving respite, a small break from the action to help you catch your breath, and with that break you are served some nice exposition. If you're invested in the story, this works quite well, it's a nice change of pace. However, if you're just here for the gameplay, which is completely understandable with this kind of game, you may find yourself getting frustrated or bored between fights. It's a jarring change of pacing. When you approach a jailer, there is a cutscene, but thankfully these are skippable if you're not interested. At the end of it all, you escape, and the mystery is unraveled. You know why you were imprisoned, why they fought hard to keep you there. And honestly, this is one of my favourite reveals in any video game. Again, I won't spoil it for you, I implore you to go out and play this for yourself, but I'll say that the reveal is really well done, sets an interesting tone for the finale, and is coupled with an excellent piece of music that wraps the whole thing up in a bow. Finally, once you've completed the game, you get access to the harder Furi difficulty. I gave this one a try and am happy to report that it increases the difficulty in a meaningful but fair way. The bosses are seriously ramped up to 11, but never feel too ridiculous or unbeatable. Exactly what you want from a harder difficulty. At the end of the day, Furi stands now as one of my favourite games. It mixes outstanding gameplay with beautiful presentation and a solid story. It hits all the right spots and is, in my opinion, one of the most satisfying games out there to play. It's relatively short, this review was my second playthrough and it took me about 2.5 hours to beat. On your first time, it'll probably take you somewhere between 3.5 to 5 hours, depending on your experience with games like this. If I haven't got my point across quite yet, seriously, you should probably buy this game if you have even a passing interest in this genre. Anyway, I'm going to go beat it on Furi now. Maybe check out that speedrun mode. Ta-ta for now.